Okay, so for this week's guitar lesson, we have an old school melody, which sounds like something the Ventures might have recorded or Duane Eddy. It's got that twangy old school guitar sound, and the whole thing is played using only 5 notes. And I bet you can guess what those notes are. But let's listen to it and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so everything that I just played there was played using the minor pentatonic scale. We're playing the A minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. The whole thing was really played in one pattern, one position. And this is a great lesson for those of you that are struggling with your speed and accuracy, if you're trying to improve that, because there's a lot of alternate picking in this. There's also palm muting, so you get all those techniques that happen, and you've got a jam track that can hold you to a tempo. So it's a really good lesson for that. But the other thing that I like about playing in this style is there's really no theory. We don't have to get bogged down in trying to guess what the chord changes are, what the third is of the next chord, or the arpeggio to try and match the notes, all that stuff that can just sort of stress you out. This is just staying in the key of the song, playing the minor pentatonic scale. I'll give you the boundaries, and you can just freestyle, over all the chords. So I've got the lesson split into 2 parts. In this video, we'll go through the first half. If you'd like to join us for the second half of the lead, and also download the tablature and also the MP3 jam track, which I have in multiple tempos. So I have a slower tempo version as well. So you can start off slow and then kind of work your way up. You can get all of those extras for this lesson by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP596. Okay, so let's talk about the chords in this. So this song is in the key of A minor. It's an A minor song. It's 3 chords. It's like a 1-4-5, but your 1 chord is minor. That's how I think of it. So you've got an A minor for the 1 chord. I'm playing a D7 for the 4 chord and an E7 for the 5 chord. And that's all I'm doing with the rhythm track. Just doing this. So, and you can hear that in the track. The bass is kind of doing that kind of thing. But the boundaries that I was talking about, those 5 notes of the minor pentatonic scale, really come out of pattern 1, which looks like this. I'll put it up on the screen, but it's... And I'm sure you've played this before, right? So get that at least under your fingers, and then, under your hat as well. And just be familiar with that shape. Now, I said this is A minor, right? So the thing that a lot of people forget to tell you is, how do you know that little thing that we did was A minor? Well, notice that I started here with my index finger on the 5th fret, 6th string. That's an A note. There's your clue, right? That's your root note. That's also an A note. So that's, and all those notes on that 5th fret, those were all in the bar if I'm playing an A minor chord. So you can see that now when I'm playing them. Every time I go down, I'm hitting one of the notes on that 5th fret. That's also the same fret, I would bar there if I was playing a A minor chord, or A major for that matter. Now, I mentioned that there were 5 notes in the minor pentatonic scale, and I'm sure somebody out there is going, hey, wait, that's more than 5. Well, it is more than 5, but it's really the same 5 notes. You're just playing different octaves. So if we look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those will be our first 5. We'll keep going up a different octave. Same notes though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can hear it's exactly the same thing. It's just pitched higher. And then we've got 2 notes that, and it sort of ends there because that's the end of that pattern. Now, obviously, we can go up into a different pattern and we can play other octaves and keep going up this way or going down this way. We're just picking one little midsection here of that minor pentatonic scale, midsection as it relates to the fretboard. So let's listen to the first little riff here, and then we'll talk about what's going on. All right, so I love riffs like this that just repeat themselves over and over again. It's just sort of, it's nice because it's a hook that you can kind of remember. And so what I'm doing is I'm on the 4th string, and I'm going between the 7th fret and the 5th fret. And notice where these notes are coming from, the boundaries we're playing within, the A minor pentatonic scale, right? So just remember, any of those notes that I showed you are going to work. You could test it. Just play the jam track and play any of these notes in any order, and it's going to sound fine. These are correct notes that will work with that jam track. So, or will work with any song in the key of A minor. We're starting on the 7th fret, and then we go to the 5th fret. Now here's the picking pattern. It's down, down, up, down, down, up, down. So it goes like this: down, down, up, down. So start off with that. That's sort of 101, is just to get that sound. Now, the other thing to that sound is the palm muting that happens. And you hear this a lot in like old, surf music or the Ventures, this kind of, that sound. And all I'm doing to get that sound is I'm taking this part of my hand and I'm resting it as close to the bridge as I can. Now, the further in you come, it gets more difficult. The further back you get, it makes it easier to have a note ring out. So what you might want to do is just kind of play around. Listen to that, muted there. But as I go back, you can hear the note kind of come into focus. So you really want to make sure your hand is back towards the bridge, as close to the bridge as you can get it. And just play around with it. You might need to move it up or down or change the angle and just sort of, you'll find it though. You'll find that sound. And so once you've got your hand there, now you can get this sound, okay? So it starts off with that. And then watch this. That time I came up and did an upstroke on the 5th fret 3rd string, and then we go back to that 7th fret, 5th, and then back to the 7th, and then it resets. So after, was it 4 times through? 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's kind of the pattern. All right, so we have, now after that, once we get to like the 6th time through it, it'll go like this. Right, and that's all happening between the 5th fret and the 7th fret. We're up on the 3rd string to do that lick. So that's a bend there, a full bend on the 7th fret 3rd string. Now, notice I let off of the palm muting for just that little lick. And then I went back to it. So full bend there, 7th fret 3rd string. Play the note without the bend. And then 5th fret, 7, 5. And then we come down to the 4th string and we play 7, 5. And then we start the loop over again. Okay, so it's... So I realize that that's difficult to do up to tempo, especially if you're new to this and you're trying to get your timing. So start off with the slower jam track for sure. Okay, so now we're back to the original riff. Notice that this time, just to give it a little variety, I did this little... And what I'm doing is I'm hitting an upstroke and I'm playing strings 1, 2, and 3. Because those are the top 3 strings of my A minor chord. Those are also notes in your minor pentatonic scale that almost has kind of a Stevie Ray Vaughan like raking style. Those kinds of things, but it's just raking the notes. So you're just really heavy-handed on that upstroke. You don't have to do that, obviously, but I just like the variety. You could do that at any point. It's kind of a cool vibe. All right, so now we're going to throw in a little twangy, bluesy lead to get us to the 4 chord. So I played. And then we go to the 4 chord. Let's look at that lick. This is minor pentatonic scale, kind of 101 stuff, but it's just such a powerful. To me, that's just, if you were to boil down like essential licks that you've got to learn, like this would be kind of one of them, just the sound of that. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a full bend on the 7th fret 3rd string, and then I'm coming up and I'm barring the first 2 strings on the 5th fret. I do an upstroke on that 5th fret 1st string, so it's like this. And then we're gonna go 8 on the 2nd string, 5 on the 2nd string. And then that's it. So it's like, and then we come down the 7th fret 3rd string, bend release, 5th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 4th string. So after that lick, we go back to the 5th fret 3rd string, and then the song goes to the 4 chord, which is our D7. Now what I played here, let me show you how to play it first, then we'll talk about it. So it's 7th fret, we're gonna play strings 2 and 3, and then we're gonna play strings 2 and 3 on the 5th fret. So basically we're going to be going back and forth between the 7th fret and the 5th fret again, just on strings 2 and 3. And it's the picking pattern is the same, even though we're using 2 strings now. So we're playing a double stop. We're going down, down, up, down, down, up, down. Right? So it's a little trickier because you're hitting 2 strings, but you can do it. You're just going to have to, hit one other string or go a little harder on your downstroke. Just like that. Now, where this comes from, there's one note here that's actually a little bit of a cheat. It's not in your minor pentatonic scale, and that's this note. That 7th fret 2nd string is not in your minor pentatonic scale. But what often happens when you're playing bluesy stuff is it gets paired with that 7th fret 3rd string, this note. You just play both. And the reason that works, especially over the 4 chord, is, let's think of the 4 chord. You think of, this is the only place we're going to get into chord shapes here, but if I'm thinking about my D chord, that's the chord we're playing over, using the A shape. Oh, look, there's that little triad, right? Strings 2 and 3 are inside that. So when I'm playing that, it makes sense that that would work over the 4 chord, right? So anyway, that's kind of why it works. And I know that's a little bit of a cheat, but this happens all the time in the blues. When you come to strings 2 and 3, you can play them together to get a nice little harmony. You can also play strings 1 and 2 together on the 5th fret. Right? That's just some classic blues stuff. You've also got the 8th fret strings 1 and 2. So now you can put it all together. And you've got like Chuck Berry territory. So the only other lick I added to that 4 chord was this. And that's what is that lick? Is that Chuck Berry? Yeah, that must be Chuck Berry, Memphis, Tennessee. So I came up to this position, which would be 9th fret 3rd string, 8th fret 2nd string, and slid into that. Now that's getting out of pattern 1 of your minor pentatonic scale. It's still notes from your minor pentatonic scale, still those 5 notes, but now we're up in pattern 2. On that 3rd string, we slide down to the 7th fret, 5th fret, and then we go down the 4th string and play 7, 5, and we go right back into the riff. So it's like, isn't that cool? I mean, you're learning some classic blues stuff. To me, this is like just blues 101. You got to get this stuff. Like, all of those classic licks they come out of this spot here. Okay, so now we're back to that main riff. Right? Now the song is about to go to the 5 chord, which is your E. And what I played for that goes like this. This is hard for me to do. I did it when I was improvising, but I had to break it down and I had to go through it several times. I'll put the tab up, which will be 100% accurate, but I hope I don't screw it up when I'm explaining it. That's it. So here was what I was doing. Yeah, it's a lot of notes and blah, blah, blah. Those notes are all just minor pentatonic scale pattern 1, but I wasn't thinking about that. Here's the trick to this. I was thinking about the end goal. I know we're going to the 5 chord. Now I said I wasn't going to talk about these chord shapes, and here I am doing it. But this is a handy little thing to know. When the song is going to the 5 chord, you can always play, if you're in your minor pentatonic scale pattern 1, you can always play this note on the 2nd string. In this case, in the key of A, it's the 5th fret 2nd string. Just remember that in this pattern, that would be the same note as your 5 chord. You've also got it down here on the 7th fret 5th string. So, in fact, if you look at your E7 chord, you can see you've got an E note here and an E note here. Now, the only reason I'm mentioning that is because that's the end goal. So I can do whatever notes I want to throw. I just need to land on this for the 5 chord. So I can go. Right? As long as I land on that. That's a big takeaway. Nobody ever sat and showed me that. I just had to figure out, watching all my heroes play, how do they know how to do that? And they would always kind of properly land on the right note. And that's the key, is just keep your eye on the prize, especially for the 5 chord. So knowing that, those are the licks. Those are the notes, I should say, not the licks. But I'll put that up on the screen. I don't want to break that down note for note because I'll just screw it up. But you can see what I was doing. I was just playing notes out of the minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. Now let me do it again. And so I was kind of going up the scale and down the scale. And these are like techniques. I call this, I hear some people call this folding the scale. And you know, I did a lesson, I'll put it up on the screen, where I talk about taking the minor pentatonic scale. Actually, this lesson ties in perfectly with what we're doing, and going up the scale in each of the patterns. Just like that, and you keep walking up until you go through all 5 patterns, going up and down, and it's a great way to get licks and ideas and these kinds of things. That's where that all comes from. So now that the song's at the 5 chord, the E chord, I just played the same kind of little riff. Same kind of idea, but using these notes. It's still the notes of your minor pentatonic scale, but it's 5th fret 2nd string down to the 7th fret 3rd string. Go up to the 8th fret 2nd string and then back down. And I think I played it twice, so it was kind of like this. And then I came down. I think that's what I meant to do anyway, 5th fret 3rd string. And then we go to the 4 chord, and I went back to what I did before. And I played it like this. Right? So it's that same idea, playing over the D chord, and we're going to play strings 2 and 3 on the 7th fret. And then we're going to do the same thing on the 5th fret. So it's like this. So notice that. That's a bend where we're bending 2 strings at once. It's not as hard as you think, but this happens on the 7th fret, strings 2 and 3. Notice what I'm doing to do that. I'm using my thumb back here as leverage behind the neck, but I'm pulling. You can't push. I can't do it anyway. I guess you could if you use 2 fingers, but with 1 finger you can pull. Like that. And then that puts us back into position down to this 7th fret 4th string. And then we go back into that main riff. And that main riff carries us to the end of part 1. Something like that. I'll put the tab up, and the tab will be accurate, but it's just same notes we've been playing. But we're landing on same idea. I can do whatever I want as long as I land on this note, my E note. Remember I showed you we've got one here and one here, so I could go. As long as I'm landing on that note, the rest of it doesn't matter. It's just notes in the scale. Okay, so I'm going to end the part 1 video there. I hope you picked up some ideas. Come join us in part 2 where we'll go over the second half. We're going to move up into a different pattern. We're going to go up into pattern 2 for at least part of it anyway, and we'll break that down. And remember, as a premium member, you would have access to the tablature and the MP3 jam track. That's the real value. So you can practice playing this. You can take the slow version and kind of work all this stuff over that to start with, and then work up to the faster tempo. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of this. I always appreciate them. I read them all and try to respond to everyone that I can. Even if you've got a question about something, make sure you leave that as well. That helps me sort of gauge if this stuff is connecting or being helpful. All right, we'll see you in part 2.